What's going on, guys? This is Taylor, and today I'm going to be talking about the show Toddlers and Tiaras and why I think that it is child abuse. And first of all, Toddlers and Tiaras is a show that features different families going around competing in child beauty pageants, or rather, not the family competing in the child beauty pageant, but the family going around with their young daughter and making her compete in these pageants to be the winner and undoubtedly receive some menial prize. Just kind of ridiculous. But that's what the show is, and I watched a couple episodes of it before I did this video. Did a little bit of research. Yeah, it wasn't very pleasant, honestly. And I wanted to talk about why I really do think this is child abuse. And real quick, child abuse is not a yes or no, black and white scenario. It's a continuum. A child who's being beaten with a belt every day after his drunk dad gets home is being severely abused, much more so than these little girls. And so please don't take what I'm saying out of context and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, abuse is only physical. To say that this is child abuse is just insulting to all the kids who have gone through real child abuse, and that's not what I'm saying. Certainly physical child abuse is much more traumatizing, but that doesn't mean that therefore, just because it's not physical, that everything is allowed. It's like, oh, you can do whatever you want with your kids as long as you're not hitting them. Because certainly, I'm sure we can all agree that there is such thing as psychological child abuse. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, kind of laying out my case for it. And hopefully I can convince some of you. I'm sure most of you don't need convincing, because just based on who I'm speaking to primarily in my audience, it's a bunch of guys who also see the silliness in these ridiculous child pageants and probably already agree with me, but I'm just going to break it down a little bit more just to kind of hash this out, flesh it out, get it all on the table. Fleshing something out and saying getting it on the table makes it sound really dirty and bad, so let's hash it out. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the undoubtedly most popular argument against people who say things like this about child beauty pageants, and that would be the women who are taking their daughters here, or the fathers, sometimes it's fathers, who are taking these daughters to these events. They say, oh, what are you talking about? I mean, it's all fine for a father to have his kid playing baseball and pressure him to play sports, but when we want to take our kids to child events, that's too much? And I thought about that for a while today, because I'm like, maybe they have a point there. But then after I applied about a first grade level of logic and then used about an eighth of my brain power, I was like, oh, you're retarded. That's a retarded thing to say, because first of all, these children are toddlers. I don't know of a single instance ever where a father has pressured his child to join a sport and just completely made that sport envelop their lives at such a young age. So let's not compare apples and oranges here. These toddlers in tiaras are much, much younger than boys who may be pressured to play sports. And either way, if there was a father out there who said to his young child, even if the child was about 8 years old, and said, you're going to be the best football player ever, and then suddenly transform that child's life, just spending all his time devoted to memorizing sports, football plays, getting used to the game, driving around the country, meeting players, talking to coaches, making it his life. And if that father did that to a child and made that child's entire just existence just myopically focused on football, then yes, I would say that is definitely child abuse. But that's not really the case. And so when you compare sports, which is, let's say, for a young kid, at least from my experience, when I was a young kid, I hated soccer, absolutely hated soccer, but my dad made me play. And for me, him, quote, making me play consisted of a once-a-week practice and a once-a-week game. So it wasn't a huge time commitment. I still got to go to school. I still got to hang out with my friends and live a normal life. And that's not the same thing as these toddlers and tiaras and the life that they're forcing their children to lead. Because what they've done is they're uprooting their child. They're depriving them of every just semblance of normalcy in their lives, just raising them in a world that's completely fictitious and not at all representational of what actually exists out there, and completely making that their lives. That's all these kids know. All they know is how to get dressed, or that's all these young girls know, rather, is how to get dressed up and look pretty and just, walk out there and parade around and do whatever the hell they do in those contests. I mean, it's not like you can have a skill contest because they're toddlers. So clearly, this is a cuteness contest, pretty much solely based on cuteness. And so what does that mean? What does that entail for these girls who are being forced into this practice that makes them parade around and just kind of show the goods from such a young age? Well, just think about it. These girls are being raised in a world where they are the perpetual center of attention. They have people doing their hair. They have people making them clothes, custom clothes. They have people attending to their every whim, every little need is taken care of because they want to make sure that these girls are always prepared for the pageant. And to a young kid, you may think, oh, taking care of a young kid like that, it's not too bad. But when you think about it, it really is too bad. It's a really bad way to raise a child, because what kind of life lessons are you imparting on this kid when you treat him like this, or you treat her like this, rather? You're telling her that the most important thing in her life is the way she looks. And we can debate and throw this back and forth all day, but that is the essence of what you're saying. You're saying that your value, your worth, is based on how successful you are in these competitions. If you are inferior, or rather if you look inferior to the other girls here, you will not win. And so it doesn't foster a healthy sense of competition. It fosters a sense of, look at me, I want you to pay more attention to me than everyone else. Look at how special I am. Look at how unique I am. Look at how much I differentiate from the norm. And unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. And in this day and age in the United States, it's controversial even to say that kids are average, because every parent wants their kids to be exceptional in every way, shape, and form. And that's normal. Parents want their kids to do well, but at the same time, and you can't be just teaching kids that they are the best and the greatest and the most beautiful from such a young age. You're not teaching these kids how to interact with others their own age. You're essentially handicapping them for life in social situations, because when that girl gets older, what does she learn from this experience? She's learned that she's completely helpless. Every time she has a problem, she turns to an authority figure or to a man to take care of it for her. She thinks, oh no, I can't handle this. I'm just a young, weak girl that isn't good at anything but, strutting my stuff and being an object of sexual desire. Which, although, it is a cuteness competition, but you're instilling these values in these girls for life. And so even though it may be a cuteness competition when the girl is young, as she develops, that sense of wanting to be the cutest is inevitably going to evolve into the sense of wanting to be the sexiest, wanting to be the hottest, wanting to be the most sensualized for everybody to enjoy, just a piece of eye candy. And aside from the fact that you're teaching them these terrible, just reprehensible morals, you're robbing them of their childhood. If there is ever a point, rather, in a human being's life where they can be completely free of the influence of outside society and not have to worry about how they look and how they are presenting themselves and just being themselves for once, it's childhood. That's when you can do it, is childhood. Because even if you're a guy who doesn't give a shit, you still give a shit, because that's how we are as humans. Unless you're a psychopath or sociopath, or have some sort of mental problem, you care how others perceive you in social situations. That's just natural. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's just really sad, because they've taken these girls and they've robbed them of that one just fleeting moment of innocence in their lives and just replaced it with everything shitty and everything terrible and everything reprehensible about our culture right now, which is the shallowness of it. They don't care. To them, it doesn't matter. Because when they look at their parents, they don't see that their parents care about intellectual merit. They see that their parents care about who's the cutest. And that's what they're learning. They're learning to emulate that. And it's really sad, because TLC presents this show like it's just happy-go-lucky family time and they're just all loving it, when that's not the case. That really isn't the case. And I think it's child abuse, and I think it's absolutely abhorrent. In addition to this, just think about what these girls are going to be like once they're 18, 19, 20 years old, once they're in college. They're not going to grow up to be healthy young women. They're going to constantly be insecure because they've been taught their entire lives that the only thing that matters is their looks. They're going to constantly be probably shunned from social situations because they're not going to do well in social situations at all. Because if there's one thing that everyone can pretty much agree on, it's that you hate people when they're arrogant and proud and obnoxious. And if a girl, all she wants to do once she's been raised like this is just focus on her own looks and compare herself to others on that shallow, basic, really meaningless level, that's not going to be a fun person to hang out with. And so in that way, these parents have succeeded not only in ruining their children's childhoods and presenting to them a warped reality, but they've also ruined their lives later in life, because they're not going to be able to adapt and assimilate into society correctly. I mean, it's already difficult enough for kids to get into a group of people and realize, hey, you know what, I'm probably average here because of the way we were raised. I, as a kid, just like every other kid in my grade, was told that I was exceptional and wonderful and just so smart and great. And, that damaged me to an extent, because when I got to college, it was difficult, because I was like, wow, I'm really I'm not the smartest person on earth. I gotta realize that I'm really a lot more average than I thought I was. And if that was an issue for me, a male, a guy who wasn't pampered at all, then it's going to be a huge, monumental issue for these girls to overcome. It's almost like these people are setting their child's brains on a setting that is not congruent with reality and then forcing them to live the rest of their days on that setting. And it's really, really sad to me. I think it's terrible. I think that there's no excuse for it. No excuse for it. It's sad because I look at these girls and part of me is really, really just empathetic and saying, wow, these girls, they didn't choose this. They just had a parent or parents who didn't get everything done that they wanted to get done as a child, and so now they're living vicariously through their children. Which that's exactly what it is. Let's not beat around the bush. These parents are doing it out of selfishness. They're doing it because they want to win. They're not doing it because they want their kid to have fun or because they care about their childhood or making other pageant friends. They're doing it because they missed out on part of their childhood and they're living vicariously. They are having to attach their own emotions onto their child so that when their child wins or loses, it's not just their child who failed or succeeded, it's an extension of themselves. And that's the pathetic part of it. That's the most lowest common denominator part of this, is that it's not even done in good spirits. It's not even like these parents are genuinely deluded and saying, oh, my kids love being paraded around at such a young age after being forced to sit in a chair for so long, being still, getting hair put on, getting makeup put on, getting uncomfortable clothes put on. They're doing it for themselves. They're doing it for selfish reasons, and that's the worst part about it. If you guys agree with me, I'd appreciate a rating on this video. I can certainly probably delve into this more if you guys want me to, but that's just kind of a topical look at this and the basic reasons for why I think that this is legitimately child abuse, and I think that it should be stopped. And once again, in no way is this taking anything out on this particular community of people who enjoy doing pageants. I'm just saying that perhaps maybe you should wait until the child is old enough to make their own decisions before you force them into a world that they really can't get out of once they're in there. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and bye-bye.